start by introducing myself. Here I am, and I emailed this to Miss Williams. Clearly you can see from that photo that I was made at Middlemore Hospital. I started my training here on January the 18th, 1971, and look what a fine product came out of it. And right where I'm standing, right here, this used to be Ward 25. Ward 25 was the children's TB ward. They had about 25 kids who were perfectly fine, but needed to be somewhere where they got their daily medication. And so on night duty on Ward 25, you were right down here. It was at the end of a long, long corridor, all by yourself, sitting in an office for 8 hours trying to keep awake while all these kids slept. This is my memory of this spot right here. Back then, I don't know if they still say this, but when I got accepted to do my training at Middlemore, they said, well, Auckland's stripe conscious, and Green Lane's class conscious, and Middlemore's unconscious. You know, there was a sense of, oh, you poor thing, you're going to Middlemore. But I have to say that everyone who trained here fell in love with Middlemore. There is something about the spirit of this place and the people who are here that's incredibly special. And so I'm very honoured to be back here today to be part of the culture of what happens in this place. Have to work out how to use this. Okay, so the Doctor of Health Science, changing practice within the practice arena. This is, we've been doing this, how long have we been doing this? I don't know, about 8 years, something like that. And it was the way people would do the Doctor of Health Science because they didn't quite know what they wanted to do, and so they could do 3 papers and work out what they were going to do. And then a lot of them did a thesis that looked very much like a PhD thesis. But we've got to the stage where we're thinking this Doctor of Health Science is distinctly different. And I think the difference is we're changing practice within the practice arena, which is why it's so important for us to be here talking to you today. And so I found this article which galvanised my thinking. And basically the challenge that came from it was that, how do I do that? I've never had one of these before. That traditionally the university has owned research. If you want to do research, you write the proposal, the university says yes or no, you do the research, the university says that's good or bad, it's sent out to academic people from other universities who say yes or no. It's stuck in the university. It might be about practice, but it all lives in the university. And these authors said, hey, it's time that research came from the university into the world of practice. It's time that the issues are real practice issues with real practice colleagues. It involves the practice managers. The funding to do it comes from the practice area, so the thing itself becomes manageable. I like this. And the thing is, every time I talk to someone, my colleagues over here, they liked it too. And when yesterday I talked to Jonathan Gray and Andrew Hill and Margie Apa, they liked it too. It feels like this is an idea that was just waiting to happen. In the midst of putting this together, I found this quote that's got nothing to do with health at all, but I quite liked it. And that's just why I've got my glasses in my hand. All these different knowledge holders, farmers, healers, livestock holders, forest dwellers, scientists, have a legitimate and useful role to play in deciding what constitutes valid knowledge in a particular context. The more academic and narrow discipline-based peer review system alone, with its privileged power to decide what is trusted science, is no longer seen as legitimate and relevant for dealing with the challenges of the 21st century. Quite right. So my question is, so who are the healers and the livestock holders and the forest dwellers that we need to be gathering around to find out what counts as knowledge in this place? So why would you consider doing a Doctor of Health Science? It's hard to know where to stand, isn't it? Okay. Because you start with 3 papers which get you ready, which you don't have to come on day one knowing exactly what you're going to do. You've got some time to grow and develop. You're part of another group of students, so you've got a peer group. It's not a lonely journey. And, you know, peers are often the people who get you through these experiences. You integrate it with your workplace needs. I had someone in my office today from AUT whose manager said to her, I want you to do this project over the next few years. You're going to be doing it anyway. Why not make it your Doctor of Health Science project? Makes great sense. So she's going to do this and be supported by her manager to have, I don't know, 2 days off a week to do this project that needs to happen anyway, and she'll get a doctorate at the end. Whereas traditionally, people from practice, they do their 40 hours a week practice and then they go home and they spend all weekend doing their research. I don't think it's sustainable. I think life's too short. We've got to find different ways of doing it. And so we say negotiate support from your workplace because you're doing what they want you to do. Now I always was the person who said, when you're doing doctoral study, you've got to be able to follow your passion. You've got to be able to do what you want to do. Well, yes, you do. That's lovely. That's how I did mine. That was great. But get real. You know, there are some pragmatics here that also matter. And I think you can do both. I think if you're passionate about practice, you'll find the project that you want to do that everyone has a win-win. It's about changing practice right where you are. So as part of doing the research, practice will already be changing. So at the end, not only have you got the report or the thesis, practice has already changed. You can't do this stuff without growing leadership skills. You know, the mere going to your manager in the first place to negotiate what you're going to do is part of growing leadership skills. People who travel this route, well, look at Duncan. Look what's happened to him. I've seen this time and again. People really growing through this program, and yeah, we'll get on to those options with another slide. And so we came up with this model that this is collaborative. This is about us doing it together. So that, whoops, this is tricky, isn't it? So there's the student in the middle. You've got to have a master's qualification to enter. They say you need to have done research. We're getting quite creative as, so what could we call research that we've done? So, you know, talk to us about that. We want you to have this experience to be doable. This experience to be integrated into what you're already doing. We think that will make your life a whole lot better. AUT, we think we have a lot to offer and that we have got expertise in supervision. We have got expertise in research methodologies. We do know how to get published. We do bring that sort of discipline that gets things done. But we think there are real gains to the organisation, that the organisation is going to get facilitated change that they want to happen. They're going to get innovative practice right there. They're going to get, what does that say? It's hard to read, isn't it? Context-specific data about this place. They're going to get enhanced leadership. They're going to get committed staff who've got a real buy-in to what's happening. And they're going to get publications which showcase what's happening here. And all of that together is about changing practice within the practice arena. Okay, so there are these 3 papers. The first one is called Practice and Philosophies, the second one, Health Systems Analysis, and the third one, Research Practice and Methodology. So let me talk about them one by one. This first paper, Practice and Philosophies, is one that I've been teaching. It's sort of traditionally focused on the underpinning philosophies. My background is qualitative research. I have been accused that qualitative research has dominated this week a little tiny bit. But anyway, that's okay. But now we think we need to do more. We need to do more. So in this week, we think if we really believe this program is about growing leaders, we're going to focus on that more explicitly. So we want to have a day that focuses on who are you as a leader. So you've got that sort of benchmark place to go to. Some of you, and we'll get on to this, rather than doing the traditional thesis, might do something that's much more like a project. So we're going to help you think, how do you do a project? And we're going to upskill you in research literacy across both paradigms. But all of this is about the quest. What is it that you want to do? What's your thesis, your project, whatever, going to be about? So all of this week focuses on what is the quest. You know, get down and really focus on what it really is, or stand back and see it from the big picture, or whatever. We will have 100 conversations that week about what do you want to do. The second paper, which Duncan co-teaches, is called Health Systems Analysis. So we've still got the quest in the middle of all this, but it's now the quest in the context of the health system in which you're practicing. So what are the laws? What are the policies? What are the funding constraints? What's going on here that you in fact don't have all that much control about, but you need to factor into whatever you're trying to do to make this change? What's happening in the global arena? You know, do you need to have a little trip to New York to see what they're doing there to feed your thinking or whatever? So, yeah, it's all in a global context. How do you, how do you lead change within the context that is full of different stakeholders with different power bases, with different, you know, all that political stuff? How do you lead change through all that? And then focusing again on, so how are you going to develop your project through all of this? And then the third paper, that's where the quest is presented as a formal research proposal. Because from the university's perspective, they're lagging a little bit behind our thinking. They still expect you to do what they will call research. But we can still translate a project into action research, into evaluation research. There is still research underpinnings that will still give it the academic clout that says, yes, this is solid research. And then you're ready to go. And ready to go is to launch into your thesis. Now, the postgraduate handbook has always says there are 3 pathways to a thesis. The first one is, the first one is the traditional thesis, where you write this very large document. These days it gets on Scholarly Commons, so it is available to everyone in the whole world, but will your colleagues ever read it? Still a good thing to do, and still absolutely possible to do in this Doctor of Health Science. The second one is to do a series of papers and then sort of write some document to underpin them. The good thing on that is you get your publications out there. I don't think it's quite as easy as it sounds, because you've still got to know what you want to write about before you write the papers, but you know it's there as an option. The third one is the one that we want to bring to people's attention. It's to do a practice project and then to write a report on that project. And you will note that the word length of the traditional thesis is 60,000 to 100,000 words, where this one is 40 to 50,000 words. So the amount that you're writing is much smaller. Arts have been doing these for a long time, because, you know, you make a movie, which is the artifact, and then you write something about how you did. So we said to one of the arts professors, send us over some projects that your people have done. There was this gorgeous one. It was a master's one, but it really helped me see. This woman came from the UK. She wanted to buy a raincoat. She discovered that she could buy an elegant raincoat that wasn't waterproof, or a waterproof raincoat that was very frumpy. She said, not good enough. Her project was to design and make 12 stunning raincoats. And on the front page of her report, which was a stunning report, she said 80% of my project was making the raincoats. This report is worth 20% of the project. It's describing how I did that. And her report, it had the wonderful photos of her doing the designs, accessing the fabric, and then these 12 gorgeous raincoats that, you know, you wanted every one of them. And so my question looking at that is, what are the raincoats we want to make in our practice environments? We're all on a learning curve here, but we can do it. We can do it. And by doing it, I think we're going to be at the forefront of change. We're going to prove people's leadership abilities. We're going to lead, publish, practice initiatives, and people are going to practice because the stuff they're going to do is going to be really exciting. And I believe through that people will advance their careers. The fees, this is again why you need your employers to buy into this. The fees aren't cheap. So you need someone to say, yep, we want you to do this and we're going to help fund it. On the back there are some flyers and they've got all these contact details which you can get from there. But just before I finish, just let me show you some of the other graduates that those pictures aren't supposed to be there, but never mind. Peter Lama, colleague of Duncan's, he came in saying, I want to look at ankles. And we say, oh yeah. He says a lot of people have sprained ankles and forever after they talk about their weak ankle. I want to see if they really are weak. So we did what physios always do, is, you know, he did these series of measurements. But he also interviewed these people who talked about their weak ankles and found out that they were, a lot of it was just that they'd sort of lost confidence, and it just sort of opened up his whole thinking about the meaning of weak ankles. It was great. Lee Matthias, you might have heard of Lee. She's on the what health board? ADHB health board. She's a mover and shaker. She's on the Midwifery Council. She's an amazing woman who did her thesis on clinical governance in the New Zealand Healthcare Service. Duncan Reid, enough said. Anne Penny is an occupational therapist sort of coming towards the end of her career. She interviewed people across the health service about what is it like to be an older health professional. And from her thesis discovered that a lot, because she interviewed older health professionals and some managers, a lot of these people are so valuable to the organisation. You know, they've got the know-how that you can't buy in any other way, but they're getting tired. They can't cope with the night duty anymore. They need a bit of looking after. You know, it was how do we look after these people and at the same time get the value out of it. Really good stuff for managers, really practical stuff. Kirk Reid, he's the head of the School of Occupational Therapists. Occupational therapists spend all their time talking about occupational therapy, but he stopped to say, but what does occupation mean? And he interviewed all these people who had a disruption in their occupation to see what the meaning of occupation really was. It's absolutely informed his teaching, the curriculum. It's sort of now underpinning their whole occupational therapy program. Adesayo is an amazing woman who came from Nigeria. She, her husband immigrated over here. She came to follow. She'd left her 3 children with her mother-in-law, got to the airport with her baby in her arms because she was still breastfeeding, discovered because she had to fly through another airport on her way and didn't have a visa to do that, she couldn't bring her baby with her. So at the airport, handed her baby to her mother-in-law, got on the plane to come here. She was a qualified psychologist. The only job she could get in New Zealand was as in a rest home as a healthcare worker. Really hard struggle arriving in New Zealand. She interviewed, I don't know, 15 other African women who had the same sort of story. What she found is these are amazing women. They're so resilient. They're so heroic in how they overcame these hurdles. And like there's Adesayo now teaching at Manukau, just got a Doctor of Health Science. You know, she's done that in 5 years. So it was her story, but it was everyone else's story at the same time. And she's captured these stories to say, hey, look, this is who we are. Powerful stuff. Then we had Ros Sorensen. Now, Ros worked for the Ministry of Health. This is an example of someone who really combined what she was doing with her job. She was contracted by them to work out how to get consumer input into planning mental health consumer participation. And so she set up the series of meetings that involved the consumers and the other stakeholders to work through a process. And then they developed the questionnaire, and then they used the questionnaire. But this whole methodology that she set up has been used again and again in other places and other health services. her career's taken off from this. She really proved her expertise by doing something real and going on to build on that expertise. So a great example of making it work in practice. And the last one, who's not there yet, Heather Donald's an independent midwife, was concerned that a lot of her colleagues weren't getting the work-life balance right. When you're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it just doesn't work. So she got a group of them together. They met as a focus group several times, and they challenged each other. What can we do differently? Now everyone came up with different ideas that worked for them, but they sort of came up with a toolkit of how we can do it different. And then Heather designed this little work-life balance tool that, and I've just been to the conference where 150 people sat here and did this tool to see how it would work for them. And we got some feedback, and now she's going to circulate this tool so every midwife can have this little tool in their pocket saying, my score's not great today, I need to do something. So again, really practical, really changing practice, which is the way forward of what we want to try and do. On the back are flyers you're welcome to take. I'm here to answer any questions. Come and see you. We're excited about this. And if you're sitting there thinking maybe, then we're really happy to have a conversation. So thank you.
So if I can just maybe finish up, so we've got some stayers. So I'm going to challenge some of you stayers, and I'm talking to the counties crowd here, that I've said it before and say it again, that you choose to work here. Because if you wanted an easy job, you would work elsewhere, because there are far easier places to work, but you choose to work here. And I will challenge and say you choose to work here because you want to make a difference. But then when you look at allied health, is that we're at a point that I would say we cannot continue to practice the way we are currently practicing. We're at a point in time that we have to fundamentally change some of the ways that we practice. But we've got a choice. We can either just choose to change, or we can choose to wrap rigor around it, and we can choose to do it in a systematic, understood way, so that we can start to translate that so others can learn from what we do. Now, I've got a vision that Duncan and I have talked about, and it's one of those that I've got absolutely no idea how we're going to do this. But the vision would be is that we have a cohort every year that get linked into this type of a program, so that we know after 3 or 4 years is that we're starting to pop people out the other end. But what we've done is that we've done a whole raft of learning about understanding how to change our practices. And so this really is a session about planting some of those seeds, because it's one of those that I accept as an employer, we need to make it work for an employee. How are we going to do that? I have not got a clue. However, that's what this place is all about. It's about trying to make that work. So that's the challenge I have, but the challenge I put out to those employees to say who's going to step up, who's going to take it, because we need the people that are practicing to say there is a better way of practicing, but I want to examine it in a right way, and we've got tertiary partners that can partner with to do just that. So there we go, food for thought. So thank you for coming. We'll see you next time.